Hi, I'm Dr. Adai and welcome to IGCSE English Language 0510 0511 with Dr. Adai from speakenglishwithdradai.com. In today's lesson, I'm going to give you key tips for the IGCSE English as a second language 0510 0511. These tips are to ensure that you have a strong start to your speaking test. Are you excited? Are you ready? Let's get started. The speaking test lasts between 13 and 15 minutes. The test has 4 stages. However, I'm going to skip the first stage as the examiner will ask you about your name, school, center, etc. I'm going to start with stage B. Stage B, the examiner will have between 2 and 3 minutes asking you about your interests and life outside school. This part isn't assessed. Part C, the examiner will give you an assessment card which has the topic you will discuss in the last part of the test. You will have between 2 and 3 minutes to read the 5 prompts on the card to prepare for this part. You can't make any written notes, but you can ask the examiner to explain anything if you don't understand. Stage D. Finally, you will have a discussion based on the 5 prompts on the card and any ideas of your own on the topic. This part lasts between 6 and 9 minutes and is the only part that is going to be assessed. You may keep the card until the end of the test. It's very important to notice here that the last part is the most important and this is the one you will be assessed on. Now, let's go through the key tips for getting a high score in the speaking test. To make it easy, I'm going to use this question from a past paper. Our neighbors. Candidate's card. Most of us have other people living close to us. Discuss this topic with the examiner. Use the following prompts in the order given below to develop the conversation. People who live next to you and what they are like. How people can be good neighbors to each other. The disadvantages of having neighbors. The idea that people in the countryside have closer relationships with their neighbors than people in the city. The suggestion that neighboring countries should help each other. You may introduce related ideas of your own to expand on these prompts. Remember, you are not allowed to make any written notes. Here, I'm going to focus only on one bullet point and I'm going to leave the others for you to plan them. Tip number 1, try to be informal. You don't need to worry about being academic. For example, think of a neighbor of yours. Try to think of their good characteristics. For example, warm and friendly, generous, sensitive, strong, and so on. Try to be positive though. So you might say, no one argues the role of neighbors in our lives. It's really hard to live without them, especially if they are good ones. Our front door neighbors are warm and friendly, generous and supportive. Tip number 2. Use informal expressions or idioms. Idioms are informal expressions that are used informally or in the informal situations. For example, you can say, good fences make good neighbors. The meaning here is when you and your neighbors are on good terms. Here is another example. Ask about your neighbors, then buy the house. Tip number 3. Be honest. Yes, try to be honest in your answers, though this is not going to affect the examiner. I feel that you're in more control of your answers when you say true things about yourself or about others. So, try to have a neighbor in your mind and try to speak about them. This makes it easy for you to remember incidents that happened to them or to you. Tip number 4. Pay attention to your pronunciation and intonation. Try not to overpronounce when you speak. You don't need to speak with an accent, but you need to be clear. So, for example, we say, we usually get together with our neighbors over the weekend. Don't try to overspeak it with an accent. Just say it in your own accent. The examiner won't give you a high score if you try to speak with an accent. But of course, you will be demarked if your pronunciation is not clear. Another thing here is your intonation. Intonation is the way your voice rises or falls when you speak. Number 5. Practice. Yes, you need to do a lot of practice before you sit for the exam. Look at the prompts on the card and try to record yourself. Listen again and check if you could speak at some length, could use informal expressions or idioms, could pronounce well, and could use your intonation in the right way. Do this exercise twice or 3 times until you are more confident. That's all for today. Don't forget to watch other lessons and subscribe to the channel here. See you in other videos on IGCSE English Language 0510, 0511 with Dr. Uday from speakenglishwithdrodai.com. Bye bye!